wrong. So I honestly, and I'm totally amazed, and with the professionalism and the connections of all those guys, with Mark Price, Dougal, Matthew Perrin, who I think went to jail for some corruption, just got released. But anyway, the Matthew. You got to talk to Doug Spong, I think it is. Yeah. Was in Billabong. Oh, okay. You got to get him in one day too. Another interesting story. But anyway, I lost my point. Sorry, I've been talking too long.
I guess then let me ask you, you must be aware of Peter Schroff, the shaper, who's has a whole social media campaign against Firewire and Slater Designs because the boards are made overseas, and I guess I want to explore that topic a little bit of just the manufacturing overseas and how you feel about local shapers as opposed to the overseas.
I think that there's two different arguments here.
Yeah.
Where we are, we honestly, all our staff surf. You don't get a job in our factory unless you surf.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, you don't have to ride a surfboard, you don't have to ride a longboard, but we'd like you to either ride a sup or a foil or maybe kite surf or something like that.
Yeah.
All right? So we want all our staff to surf.
Yeah.
And the only person in our business who doesn't surf is Klaus. Is that right? Our accountant? Yeah, okay.
Well, he's an accountant. He's allowed to not surf. As long as he can count money, it's okay.
So we've set our factory up in a location in Thailand where we literally, 2 kilometres away, is the most consistent, best surf in Thailand.
Wow.
Everybody surfs. We live there and we have our factory there because there's good waves. So we're like anyone else who surfs. Yeah. And I sometimes get a little frustrated because I've got some team riders in Thailand, some young guys. They're really talented. In fact, there's one young team rider who is actually working with us now, and I'm teaching him how to shape and how to design boards. And really, to me, he's going to be a role model for the world. Just because you're Chinese or you're Thai or you're from some Asian country, it doesn't give you the right to become a board builder or a board designer.
It's ridiculous.
What sort of racism or stereotyping people, So, and just because if boards are built in your country, it's a pure product, but if it's built in any other country, it's imported crap. And I call bullshit on that from that perspective.
Yeah.
But okay, there are production houses in China that are 1,000 kilometers from the ocean, and not one staff member has ever even seen the ocean.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, Western companies will go to them and say, produce this product. And so they have their team riders who are, on the tour, and they're promoting their athletes and they're promoting a lifestyle, but there's people in sweatshops in the background. And that's a reality.
Yeah.
Whereas, our vision is it's a lifestyle industry, and it's not just a lifestyle for the boss, but it's a lifestyle for everybody in the business.
And apparently, and so I also, from articles and people I've talked to, some of the facilities, and I imagine yours is one of them, just ultra high tech, very little waste.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of places here in the U.S. and a lot of backyard shapers, probably worse for the environment, Scott.
No, honestly, when my business, this is crazy. This is another thing. This is another almost misnomer or a myth. People think that in Asia, they have lax environmental laws. And maybe the pollution from cars is pretty bad in China, and China's a little rough, but in Thailand, it's crazy. Literally, I remember my first factory in Bangkok, almost once a month, I'd get a visit from two black vans would pull up, and 20 EPA guys would get out and be crawling all over my factory. And I mean, you got to comply. And so they're actually really good with their environmental laws, and they're actually really good with their laws, because the biggest the biggest asset of Thailand, in my opinion, is the huge workforce. So the government's really good at recording every worker, every person that has to pay tax. I mean, it's almost impossible to get a tax return in Thailand. But I mean, they do it's very bureaucratic, but they've got a system. So they're great at like worker protection, and they're really good with environmental laws. And you come to our factory, man, it's tight. I mean, you can I wouldn't, but you know,
you could
eat off the floor 10 minutes after it's been washed.
Yeah, of course.
But look, essentially, our factory is pristine. We've got a pristine environment around us. Nothing comes out of our factory. I mean, when my business was based in Australia, I spewed way more toxic shit into the environment than we do in Thailand. I mean, and we've got a machine that melts all our foam and spits out these little like plastic nuggets that we sell back to the polystyrene company. So our foam is recycled. All our dust is contained.
Dust. I'm curious. So I've heard rumors and myths of like waterfall walls that collect the dust, and then like that dust goes through a filter, and like, is that?
Yeah, okay. The biggest thing I don't like about it is it actually fucks up the airflow.
Really?
Yeah, like honestly, if you've got a huge fan that's just spitting everything into the environment, it's super comfortable for the worker.
Yeah.
All right. But because our stuff, you know, it goes through filters, it goes through more filtration, it goes through a cyclone system.
Yeah.
And so it's like a vortex collection system.
Yeah.
And as the dust is spinning, it gets thrown out to the side, and like gravity or centrifugal force, like these cyclone filterless vacuum cleaners. Similar
Dyson
process. Dyson, that's the one. Yeah, so we got an extraction system that's like that, which then collects all the dust.
Wow.
And, you know, I mean, like a little bit escapes, like maybe like some talcum powder or something. You know, little bit does get through the system. But essentially it does kill the airflow, so it does make it a little bit more difficult as a staff. Yeah, they cook a little.
Interesting. Yeah. And then, so you left Firewire, and then you started Sunova, and this has been...
Well, Sunova was already running.
Yeah, so, I mean, but like you created your factory.
Sunova basically had a good full year off while... basically, after Firewire, like was I think Firewire started in like March 2006.
Yeah,
and I got out of Firewire in March 2007.
Wow. So, and let's talk your tech. Are you doing anything different now with your tech, or what are you working on now that sets you apart from some of the other boards and other things that are popping out? Because right now, it feels like now there is a tech race in the surfboard industry that you helped start. I mean, you really did. And like you see it from Hayden with his parabolic stringers of sorts to you know, you got DMS, those surfboards with the carbon that runs along the board and then wraps around underneath. Like, you're really starting to see a whole blossoming of new tech and new flex and experimentation. Yeah,
it was interesting because I think 2003 I went to the World Longboard Titles in New Zealand, and there was only one guy who was riding a sandwich board at the time, and that was one of our team riders, Justin Redmond. And there was one other Brazilian guy, I think his name was Marcelo Freitas, really hot Brazilian longboarder back in 2003, and he was also riding an EPS board with a balsa wood stringer. So out of this entire lineup of pro longboarders, which at the time I think was 44, you had two guys riding epoxy boards and one on sandwich. And then I'd sort of had a bit of a break with the whole getting, you know, the business set up, scaling it back, Firewire, the whole story I've just been telling you about. So it wasn't until 2013, a full 10 years later, that I went back to the World Longboard Titles, and I actually went with one of our team riders, Justin, the same guy as before. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. There was like maybe 25 surfers, at least more than half the field was on some variation of either sandwich construction, shape and glass EPS, epoxy, some hybrid construction, EPS bottom, PVC deck, different timber constructions. I mean, literally, like, there would have been at least 20 to 25 different surfers on at least, I reckon, 10 to 12 different brands, which was some kind of variation of sort of what I'd started. And I remember there was another shop that I dealt with too in the east coast of Australia, Natural Necessity, Kent Ladkin, and he kind of prided himself on having the latest thing in technology. And when he was selling our boards, like in the mid-90s, we had this really unique product. And I remember walking back into his store about 5 years ago, and every single board in his shop was some sort of new tech. And it was like, you know, when I first started dealing with you, Kent, there was no competition for my product. And now I've kind of got competitors. But, you know, but look, at the end of the day, Kent's a little different. He will not stock a PU board. He is like, it's got to be new tech or EPS epoxy, and that's it. He's a bit of a unique shop. But, you know, you go a lot of places in the world and it's still a PU world. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. Like, and then, you know, you're starting to see all these new business models starting to pop up, or new ways of selling it. Like, you have Firewire and others who do consignment in the surfboard shops. And then you have Board of the Month, which we were talking about, like surfboard clubs, things like that. I mean, that's all changing.
You've got it. Like, honestly, it's the goalposts are moving all the time.
Yeah.
And you've got to be adaptable. And look, and I remember even when there was this switch from, you know, like overseas production or epoxy EPS, and some guys are so closed-minded to either a different way of building boards, they don't want to learn new shit, a different way of doing business. Honestly, I think to survive in business, you really got to be open and adaptable, and you've got to maybe hedge your bets a little bit. Like, if I look at a brand like Lost or Rusty, fuck, they've done really well.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, how many different technologies does Lost put its brand on?
Yeah.
I mean, they're hedging their bets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, they got.
It's kind of like there's 10 horses in the race, and guess what? We're going to bet on all 10 of them.
Makes sense, though. They offer it out and see who does it. You know, and you have that guy Drew in Florida, Inspired Shaper, who I went to college with, and like, it's unreal what he's doing with the cork.
Yeah, it's unreal. I know Drew.
Yeah, you know, it's an exciting time to be making boards, and it must be pretty fun for you to be not just making surfboards, but stand-up paddles, foil boards, and also now you're working with Sebastian on tow boards.
On the tow boards,
which is and big wave boards in general.
Look, that's been unreal, because honestly, for so long, everyone has said, "Oh, EPS, that's only for small waves. Doesn't work in big waves." Fuck you. Honestly, if a guy can surf an 80-foot wave on an EPS epoxy board and reckons it goes better than anything he's ever ridden, what does that say? It does work in big waves, right? And it's not, when people say it doesn't work in big waves, it's only because they haven't learnt
how to make it work.
Build them for big waves, because they're still in their polyurethane, polyester resin mindset.
It's interesting because, like, my brother and I used to talk about this, like, you know, to catch a big wave, like, and I'm talking paddling now, not towing, but to paddle in, you need to sit high on the water to paddle faster, no? And so a lighter board, in some ways, would get you into the wave where you would paddle faster, because a heavier board's going to move slower. Is my physics kind of correct here? Because I'm not a shaper.
Essentially, like, I used to be into drag racing, and so it was all about weight.
Yeah.
Okay, so the lighter something is, the faster it can accelerate.
Yeah. And
the faster it can decelerate. Look at Formula One, man. They're off the mark, but they can also decelerate. So weight will make a difference to, you know, how fast something can accelerate and decelerate.
Yeah.
So a light board is able to, like, spin around. First few strokes, you're up to paddle speed.
Yeah.
But in big surf, one of the major issues you have is